If you guys enjoy what I do, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. It really helps the channel and it's free and easy to do. Welcome to my channel where we cover the lore of Final Fantasy XIV. We cover the stories both big and small, the epic and the cute, the silly and the tragic. I hope you all enjoy the ride, and welcome to the Chronicler of Lore. Alphinaud has still been working on the Bahamut and Louisoix problem, and Urianger has been talking to Rambros from the Sons of St. Coinoc to see what he can figure out about Bahamut's prison. With Rambros being so knowledgeable about all things Allagan, he does know a little bit about it. Dalamud was made to gather sunlight and to channel it into the Crystal Tower. When the Allagans saw how powerful Bahamut's ether manipulating abilities were, they bound him to Dalamud to use as a power core. The devices that were linked to the half-dead Primal are called internment husks, and they bind Bahamut, keeping him from getting away, and they pour enough ether into him to keep him from losing his physical form. He's trapped, unable to die or escape from a prison that feeds on his own ether. The Primal had been trapped for centuries, but the prayer of their followers are the things that keep Primals in their physical form, which means the Allagan's machine must simulate that somehow. That means if all of the internment husks are turned off, then Bahamut should finally break down into ether. After a little bit of studying and searching, they figure out that there are 3 coils keeping Bahamut alive, and another piece of Dalamud with the same ether signature as the last one you explored was found in the 12's Wood. There's a path inside from the North Shroud, and that should lead you to the second internment husk that needs to be shut down. Alphinaud hopes the Warrior of Light will join her for another trip, and if you decide to tag along, you can tell her assistant Nael out near Falgord Float. She'll be heading there after she makes her own preparations, so she's hoping she'll see you there. Nael is one of Alphinaud's assistants, who's worked her way up to lieutenant rank in the Twin Adders, so she could basically spy for Alphinaud in the 12's Wood. That position lets her do some things without being questioned, including doing a little investigating of the Dalamud fragment. From what she's seen, it's not all that different from the last one that you and Alphinaud wandered through, complete with its own traps and guardians. Granted, she thinks you'll do better seeing it for yourself, and she has someone stationed there that can help you get a glimpse of the place, so you head off to meet him. Alphinaud had told him to expect you, so he fills you in on what they found out. The Empire hadn't found this fragment, which meant no one had cleared a path to it, so all of their time has been spent doing that. They got a few glimpses inside, but all they know is that the master controls are at the bottom of the place behind a lot of Allagan defenses. So the only way to learn more is to explore the place whenever Alphinaud decides to show up. Oddly enough, Alphinaud is the one who shows up first. Urianger had told him what the Warrior of Light and his sister were doing, and he came out to chat with you for a moment before you went into the second coil. He wanted to tell you that Alphinaud admired Louisoix even more than he did. Since the man died, she made it her personal mission to pick up where he left off and protect Eorzea. That's why she dove headfirst into the coil, but that's not what has Alphinaud worried. He doesn't want her mission to stop Bahamut to turn into a quest to save their dead grandfather. She needs a better reason to fight other than simply fulfilling someone else's dream, because he doesn't think that will be enough for her in the end. But he does think that traveling with you might help her find herself, since it did work wonders for him. But it won't help him if she finds out that he was monitoring her, so he wants you and Nael to keep it a secret that he was even there, since Alphinaud is kinda prone to violence. He leaves before she gets there, and once she arrives, the two of you dive into the second coil of Bahamut. Once the two of you get closer to the entrance, Alphinaud realizes that the corrupted ether warped the air in a way making it hard to see just how the area looks from far away. Up close, it's a much more dangerous place to try to walk through, but that's not going to slow her down. Not when there's a chance to save her grandfather. Saving her grandfather is at least second in her mind to fighting Bahamut, but it does seem like Alphinaud was right about where her focus lied. There's a lot of stuff blocking you from even getting into the moon fragment, but once the two of you get inside, you see someone in armor that everyone who was alive during the calamity would recognize. Nael Van Darnus, the White Raven, the man who caused the last calamity. But he's very dead, and when he hears Alphinaud say that name, he claims that's not who he is, and he's pretty insulted to be compared to that failure. He calls himself Nael Des Darnus, a name given to him by Bahamut, the being that Nael claims is the one true god. This guy is clearly very tempered, and he warns you that if you keep defiling his god's domain, he will kill you. Then he drops off of a very high cliff and vanishes. The whole encounter was strange, but Alice expected weird, so the two of you hop down onto a massive elevator, where instead of elevator music, you have elegant defenses to keep you entertained. The Warrior of Light deals with them as well as the very creepy snake lady waiting at the end of your ride. With that over and done with, it's deeper down you go. There are paths everywhere, and they are dark, which of course lead to more horrible Allagan monstrosities. They said that Allagans were really good at making all types of chimeras and such, and literally millions of the things were housed inside of Dalamud to keep the Allagans' enemies from releasing Bahamut. That was likely a deterrent for the Mericidians, who had summoned the Warring Triad in their battle with the Allagans, which led to the Voidsent being summoned with the power of the Crystal Tower, and so on and so forth. While those defenses were meant for them, they worked just as well at slowing you down too. But the Warrior of Light cuts a path through the defenses that are in his way, and he and Alice make their way down to the heart of the coil, to a place that looks exactly like the fields of Cartno where Nael Van Darnus died, complete with a floating Dalamud overhead. Nael is there, and he claims that the place will be your grave since you kept destroying Bahamut's things. He starts to channel the power to do something probably nasty to you, but Alice shoots first, knocking off his helmet and revealing that this person is actually a woman, which the real Nael definitely wasn't. Apparently when the man had died and his soul was on its way to the ethereal sea, Bahamut had snatched his ether and remade him into the woman you see before you. He ordered this remade Nael to destroy his enemies and gave her the power to do just that. It gives her a much more dragon-like form, and she turns all of that power on you. When you finally bring her down, the illusion that made the area look like the Calamity fades, and the woman not only turns back into her normal form, but she's no longer tempered. She also claims to be the real Nael Van Darnus now, but she knows that the body she's in isn't her real one, and her mind's a little cloudy, but she refuses to be tempered again. Normally it's all but impossible to get untempered, which means Bahamut must have released Nael since she's near death and useless to him now. Nael thinks it's funny that she ended up being controlled by one of the creatures she had hoped to get rid of, but tempered or not, she knows with absolute certainty that she had initiated the Meteor Project on her own. Before she fades away, Alice wants the woman to tell her what really happened to the world and her grandfather after the calamity. Nael thinks it's funny that Louisoix's grandkid had a hand in her death and release from the Primal's control, and she lets Alice know that she'll get her answers if she keeps exploring the coils, but she probably won't like what she finds. Before she can say more, a spear made of light stabs her in the chest and puts an end to her for good. With her dead and out of the way, the two of you head off to finish your mission, and what you find is Bahamut has been regenerating a lot faster than you all had expected. That's kinda bad, but Alice hopes that turning off this machine will slow down the process, at least enough to give you time to find the last one. She shuts it down and the two of you get ready to head back to the surface, only for Louisoix to show up and attack Alice. He wants her to stop what she's doing because he won't let her keep interfering with Bahamut. She of course refuses to stop, so he goes to kill her, but the Warrior of Light steps in the way. The fact that he was really gonna kill her, that and the glowing red eyes, lets her know that Louisoix is just as tempered as Nael had been, and he decides to let you leave for now, but he promises that he will kill you both if you come back. With that he leaves, and Alice is forced to admit that her grandfather is truly dead before the two of you leave and head back to the Waking Sands to let Urianger know what's happened, and the plan for what to do next. After hearing about the fake Louisoix and Nael that you had to fight, Urianger thinks it may be for the best if Alice left this mission to the Warrior of Light, but of course there's no way she'd abandon the job. There is something that she's worried about. She doesn't know if Nael Van Darnus and Louisoix are the only two thralls that Bahamut had working for him. Nael had said something about Bahamut's beloved children that Alice had assumed was meant for the Guardians of Dalamud, but she could have been talking about other mortals that the Primal had enslaved. If that's the case, then you have to deal with them before you can shut down the last coil, because if even one of them lives, they'll just be able to summon Bahamut again, and she's willing to wipe them all out, even if that means having to put down her grandfather with her own hands. This concludes the second part of the Binding Coils of Bahamut. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe, ding that notification bell, and if you really want to show your support, you can donate to the channel through the link in the description. Until next time guys, later.